Konnichiwa ninjas, it's me, Ninja Lens, and today I'm going to be talking about Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. Just going to be my first thoughts, rambly, off-the-cuff thoughts about the movie. The first thing I think about the movie is that I was wrong about Batfleck. I was kind of worried about Ben Affleck as Batman. I would also like to preface all of this by saying that I didn't watch trailers. I watched like little tiny snippets about this movie. For the most part, I saw those little... I saw pictures, I saw little clips, I saw little bits of trailer. Now, you guys can talk about, if you guys want, you can tell me about whether or not that's a dumb way to handle movies, but I try and avoid trailers ever since movies started just spoiling movies in the trailer. Like, Terminator, the newest Terminator movie literally spoiled the movie. The whole movie's twist in the trailer. I don't understand the point. And so I this is going to be pretty spoiler ridden because I'm going to have no restraints on this. I'm going to start by saying, yes, I thought Ben Affleck did a good job as Batman. Well, I'd like to say that he did a good job, and I'd also like to say that I enjoyed Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, and a lot of people thought she added nothing. She was just kind of there. I don't know, I thought she was a good Catwoman. You guys can disagree with me. I thought Ben Affleck didn't seem like Ben Affleck in the movie. He wasn't like, I'm Ben Affleck. I'm Ben Affleck. Look at me, I'm Batman. He was like, I'm acting. He's an actor. He's a good actor. For what it's worth, Ben Affleck, I'm very sorry that I was skeptic. And I'll try not to be... I'll just be totally real here. Skepticism is good. But I mean, I'll try not to be so negative in the future. I was kind of worried about Ben Affleck as Batman, and those worries were unwarranted. He did a great job. He's a good actor. He didn't look like Ben Affleck. He was like, I'm Batman. He just seemed like he was Bruce Wayne. The actor, I don't know who the actor is. I'll have to look that up for the main channel video, but the actor, whoever did Alfred, like I said, I'm coming into this blind. The only thing I knew was that it was going to be kind of like a sequel to Man of Steel. And Ben Affleck and the same Man of Steel guy was going to be in there. And Mark Zuckerberg was going to be Lex Luthor. We'll get to him in a second. So I was pretty... what was I talking about? I enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman, and the guy who did Alfred, whoever played Alfred, I think he was so sassy. He reminded me a lot of like the Batman's Alfred, where he would also be like, of course, yes, but Master Wayne, any chance you'll be having any kids and getting married and not being a stupid American buffoon. I felt like he was funny. That's what I'm trying to say. He was really funny. And, well, I started to notice pretty much right away, as soon as the Superman bits came in, that the actor they chose to play Clark Kent, I'm not very happy with his performance. I thought he looked kind of like he was screwing up his like facial expressions, and I'm like, are you sure you wanted to use that take? I mean, it wasn't like he was laughing or chuckling. It was just kind of like he was having a hard time keeping, like he was trying to hold onto a grimace, like he was grimacing, like he was trying to grimace and he just couldn't do it. I'm not gonna lie, I noticed that. I didn't notice it in Man of Steel. Maybe I'll have to watch it again and see what I notice. But I heard people talking about it and saying I was not very happy with Henry something or other's performance in Man of Steel. So there's that. I kind of now let's talk about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I liked him at first. I thought he was like kind of kooky and crazy, and like he was kooky and crazy in the same way he was kooky and crazy in like The Social Network and Now You See Me, those two movies I loved him in. And he was kind of kooky and crazy, like, I'm kind of quirky, and I'm like, I'm very intelligent behind the scenes, and I'm not afraid to go like, but then there was just like one scene in the movie where he's supposed to be speaking, and he's just screwing it up. He's just like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like instead of like from the start, he was kind of like, it reminded me a lot of like a Facebook or a Google like headquarters show where he's playing basketball and he's like, I'm a young guy with billions of dollars. I'm quirky, and it was actually pretty good. He did a great job. It's just I don't know if it's fair to blame Jesse Eisenberg for the things he had to say. Like, I don't think he ad-libbed that he screwed up his speech, and he's just like, I'm gonna try this one in front of people. Like, oh. And as the movie went on, he's just more like devolves into just insanity. Like, and we also don't really get a good glimpse of how intelligent Lex Luthor is in this movie. I can't tell if they're trying to build him up as a super intelligent person. There's the point where he's in the Kryptonian ship and he's just understanding how to do this, but the only stuff we see is like really simple stuff. Like, he's given voice commands. And he's overriding them in the simplest way. Like, he doesn't interact with the technology in any other way than speaking to it. And at first, he's kind of like charming. He's got like kind of like a focused charm to him. And then slowly, he kind of just goes off the deep end. By the end of the movie, he's just like, oh, he's going to kill us all. He's going to kill us all. It's coming for us. Loopy, completely off his rocker. And there's also the Wonder Woman bit. I loved the way they introduced Wonder Woman in the theater. In front of all the people in the movie theater. When Wonder Woman showed up in her battle gear, I was just like, Wonder Woman! I was so excited to see Wonder Woman. Super cool. I love her. Well, I don't know. I can't say that I love her. I think I love what I've seen of her. We've seen this really kind of cute scene with Bruce Wayne, and I guess technically it's Diana because she's not in the Wonder Woman costume. And we have this thing where Diana is trying to steal the same data as Bruce is. Like, Bruce is at a party for Lex Luthor. Once again, another reason why I don't know if it's fair to say that Lex Luthor's a genius, because Bruce Wayne is in his house, walking into his server room, plugging in stuff. He plays it off like he's just pissed drunk, and I thought that was really funny. Like, where's the men's room? I think I had a little too much martini. I'm trying to find the men's room. And he just kind of plays it off like he's a doof. And that's another thing I want to talk about, but first I want to talk about Wonder Woman scene there. She's like, she kind of like, there's this scene where he's just staring at Wonder Woman like, what are you doing in here? What are you doing in here? What are you doing in here? And while Batman goes up to the top and talks to people and waits for his download from Lex's server to happen, she steals his hard drive. And he meets her at another party, and he like flirts with her. He's like, hey, babe, I know you've got the body that a woman who could, 9 out of 10 men would do anything for you. And she's like, you're the 10th man? Probably the first. And it's just, I don't know why I laughed so hard at that. I was just like, that's funny and that's cute. And I thought what we seen of Wonder Woman was super cool. We didn't get to know much about her. Except that she's kind of interested in stealing from Lex Luthor. And on the same hard drive, we see like this really cool bunch of superheroes. And this is something that's really important to know, that this does not take place in the same universe as, it doesn't seem to take place in the same universe as the CW show. As the Barry Allen, the Flash, is a completely different character. Maybe they'll play it off like, oh, it's just going to be a different actor, but it's supposed to be the same character. We'll see. And we have the Flash just existing at the same time, and that's cool. We need a Justice League movie pretty badly. we saw the little logos. I thought it was just going to be like the logos. Like Lex Luthor came up with logos for all of their characters, but no, they're actually like there's little snippets of video of each of our heroes. We have Aquaman being like, I'm in the water, like literally for a whole minute straight. He's just like, I'm in the water. I look like Dylan. I look like Dylan. He does look like me, apparently, when I'm not being a slob. But and then we get Cyborg. I want to talk about Cyborg last. Flash, pretty simple. He's just like, I'm standing there, and he just kind of like, phew, there's just kind of like a bunch of wind, and he stops a robbery, and then it's just a picture of Wonder Woman. Like, there's a video of her taking money out of an account, and I was like, are they gonna show us why that's important? Because like that's just a picture of her. And then they show an older pictures like that. We could have had just a static picture of her and then a picture of her back in time, because it's a picture from 1918 or something like that in her costume. And that's pretty. And then Cyborg. I want to talk about Cyborg a little bit. Cyborg stood out a lot because his scene was by far like the most like in depth and character developing. It seems like they're not going to have an origin in his... Well, they're probably going to have an origin. They're probably going to have flashbacks to Victor Stone's past and be like, this is me when I was 14 going to the football team and something like that. We don't know what his exact backstory is, but generally he's a high school football player, gets mangled practically to death, and then his father saves him with technology either from our world, usually Star Labs, or from Apocalypse in the New 52. So there's a lot of stuff, and I'm pretty excited for the movies. I thought there was something really interesting about Cyborg, is because Cyborg does not have a widely recognizable logo. He doesn't have a logo on his chest. He doesn't wear a logo on his chest. In fact, he's never been like a core Justice League member or even like a really popular adult superhero. He was a Teen Titans member, and so that's really interesting that they made a little logo for him. And I'm glad that they showed video of each of them, because Cyborg's logo, I didn't even recognize it. I was like, who is that? And I was like, oh yeah, they're making a Cyborg movie. So that was pretty interesting that they made a logo for him. He's not that recognizable. Like Aquaman's got his A on his belt. Wonder Woman's got the W's on her chest, and that's where everybody's looking. And the Flash got his lightning bolt everywhere. So it's pretty cool that they're bringing a superhero that doesn't have that much recognition. He's not that new. He's a pretty new superhero, honestly. That was pretty cool that they showed us that. And I want to be honest with you, and I'm going to bring this up in the main review pretty early on, is that they kind of deceived us with Batman versus Superman. And I expected it to not have a whole lot of Batman fighting Superman, but it's kind of like a half deceit. There's not a whole lot of Batman fighting Superman. There's one scene where they fight, and it's really contrived, honestly. I feel like the setup for it, they were building up to a really good setup, and then they were just like, oh, we're going to have Lex Luthor say, if you don't kill Batman, I'm gonna kill your mom. And then that was like, oh, probably didn't need to do that. We could have just had Lex Luthor doing his side thing, because they were building up to a Batman versus Superman fight already. Superman already confronted Superman saying, Batman already was like, I don't like what this Superman character is doing. And they actually and Superman didn't like what he's doing. He sounds a lot like those obnoxious, my not dumb friends are like, if Batman really wanted to help people, he would build a factory. I took high school economics. So funny. So I failed high school economics. So it really, Superman has that same idea that he's like, oh, he's just hurting poor people. And I don't know exactly how he came to that conclusion when, like, the big criminals that, like, there's two big criminals that Batman catches, that they talk about Batman catching, that Clark is reading about. And There's the two of them that I also have a problem with the fact that he's branding people. What is this? Is he a cow? I thought he was Batman, not cowboy. Cowboy man. He's branding people. That's really brutal, by the way. But apparently he only does it to the really bad ones, and he does it to like a notorious human trafficker. Honestly, people like who. Honestly, I kind of agree that those people are scum. I don't like human trafficking. I want it to stop. And a child. I think I couldn't remember if they said child molester or child abuser. I think the gist was the same, is that he's a child rapist kind of person, and he did that to them. Also, not a fan of those guys either. I don't know if I would say they're just. I don't want to get into the ethics of what's worse, human trafficking or child molestation. They're both horrible things, and if you do them, I kind of would agree that you should be branded as a bad person. But I think that's a little too brutal, honestly, for Batman, and Superman agrees. Now, there's so much I could talk about. Superman and Batman, their build-up, they have this build-up of a difference in, like, ideas, and they both think each other is doing something wrong. Like, Superman, of course, thinks he's just hurting poor people, and Batman thinks that he is, if he destroyed Metropolis. He killed many people by like a Kryptonian was. He brought war here, and he killed a lot of people, and it was a bad thing that happened in Metropolis, and a lot of people kind of blame Superman for it, especially like the one worker that Batman saved. I can't remember his name is Wallace. I think his name was Wallace. He lost both of his legs. He sprayed false god on Superman's statue. I don't know why they called it an act of terrorism in the movie, and I think that's kind of like alluding to the fact that this man has so much obscene power that, yeah, I think it's kind of scummy. That they're trying to, like, you know, that is kind of a reason that people would have a problem with Superman, specifically Batman, is that he's got so much power that simply defacing a statue of him is a 40-year. You have to pay a 40-year sentence. It'll take you to federal prison for that. That's kind of ridiculous. Now, defacing, like, if I were to go out there and spray paint Obama's statue, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people who'd be mad at me, but I don't think I'd go to jail for 40 years. I'd probably have to pay a fine, maybe do some community service. But yeah. And there's also a lot of religious imagery. Like, if you thought that they put it a little too on the head in Man of Steel, they went inside the head this time. They went way out there with it, especially towards the end. They do false god. And Lex Luthor is blatantly kind of this anti-theist, and he's just kind of like, he says, you are God, and God is fake, and God is bad. If you're omnipotent, God is bad. God is bad. He just goes on rant for like, it's like a 10-minute rant about how bad God is, and that he needs to kill them. That was a little uncomfortable, to be totally honest. I don't think we need a whole lot of religious imagery in. I think it is it a Zack Snyder thing, but I don't know, like, because that was really prevalent in Man of Steel, where he's with the Jesus imagery, and this was just ridiculous. Like, it's not even like imagery; it's like they're just saying it. Superman is God, and he's bad because if he exists, he's terrible, and, things like that. A lot of I'm sure the atheist community would probably be pretty mad at, might be pretty mad at this movie, but I don't think they will. Maybe they won't care, because it was, I don't know, it was kind of silly. I thought that Lex Luthor that was like the point where he just devolved into insanity. Because before that, he seemed like a really charming person. There's so much I could talk about with this movie, but I don't think I can talk anymore. I'm getting tired. There's so much that happened in this movie. So, the Doomsday fight at the very end. Lex Luthor clones General Zod. I I forgot his name. He clones Zod. There's also some really there's way too many uncomfortable scenes where they've got Zod's naked dead body on the table. They didn't have to show some of these. They do a lot of scenes where people are carting around his dead body. It's really weird. And during the movie, I found myself wondering, so did they actually cast him and have him pose for some of these? Or did they craft a dummy? Did they make it CGI? Because a lot of it looks like it's actually there, and I don't think it's CGI. If it was a puppet, it was a really good puppet. And they did that goofy thing where there's a person or something in the way of his doobly-doos all the time. Little bit uncomfortable when it comes to like carting around his dead body. So they make Doomsday. He clones himself and Zod to make Doomsday. Doomsday looks a little bit like Zod. And I can't believe I missed this. So after Batman and Superman have their big fight, and Batman has this really cool one-liners, and he says, "You're not brave. Men are brave," because there's this kind of like a running gag that Superman, are you really brave if you like? Is it really brave to just be like, "Oh, I'm indestructible"? And I mean, like if you were to walk into a war zone, that'd be pretty brave. But is it equally brave when you're bulletproof? Who knows? That's kind of a thing to point out, and I think that's a legitimate criticism of Superman. He's so powerful. How is it noteworthy of anything he's doing? Is it noteworthy when I tear apart this orange peel? And that's kind of like the philosophy behind this movie. So Doomsday. After Batman and Superman fight, Wonder Woman shows up, kind of randomly, honestly, and Batman saves Superman's mother for him, and he has some cool scenes. I have some more criticisms of Batman. Batman takes a bunch of bullets to the back of the skull, like at point blank range. Batman's like, and he's not in his like mech suit armor. He's in his standard suit where he's supposed to be able to move around. That's not a thing you can do in real life. You can't. Like, he took multiple bullets point blank range to the back of his head, and I think that was a little weird, considering he's supposed to be a guy wearing kind of cool armor and moves around really fast. I think that kind of broke me a little bit. It's like, okay, he's supposed to be able to take a bullet or two in specific places, like his chest or his arms, but not the back of his head at point blank range. And that was kind of, that was like, oh, that kind of broke the suspension of disbelief a little bit. Like, it was like, I'm watching a movie. But there was another point in the movie I was like, that's pretty cool. Because this movie takes a lot from The Dark Knight Returns. I know a lot of people notice this in just like the concept art in the trailers, but I mean, like, there are scenes from the movie that are just straight from The Dark Knight Returns. Like when he's rescuing Superman's mother, he grabs a guy from through the wall and he points the gun at the guy, and he's like, "I'll kill her. Don't move. Put the gun down. I'll kill her." And that's straight from The Dark Knight Returns. In my review, I'm going to bring up that exact page because first of all, he was pointing at a baby, by the way. He was pointing at a baby. He's like, "I'll kill the kid. I'll kill him." And he's like, "I know." And it just kind of like zooms out. We don't see what he does. He just zooms out and he's like, "Oh, that's some serious stuff right there." And then another scene where it wasn't even like a scene as much as it was like a frame where Batman like zip lines to a point, and he poses kind of like I think it's on the cover of The Dark Knight Returns, and that is a frame that's exactly, I saw Frank Miller in Special Thanks. I'm not sure if he worked on the film. I should probably research this before I make the video, but maybe I won't. But he was involved in this movie. I'm trying to think, there was one more scene that was just like, that's straight from The Dark Knight Returns. Well, the armor is straight from The Dark Knight Returns. And the fight where Batman beats Superman due to the kryptonite and stuff like that, is from Dark Knight Returns. It doesn't resemble it very much, so. One thing that bugged me about Batman in this movie is that he drinks. Now, in past Batman iterations, there's been a lot of iterations, so he can kind of go back and forth. But in general, Batman doesn't have alcohol, or like he doesn't drink any alcohol. Like, he pretends to drink even a little bit. He doesn't drink at all. He tries to pretend to be drunk. And in this movie, they kind of portray it as like he's actually an alcoholic. And you know, I look back on that scene, and he did have a woman in his bed, so maybe they were like playing a part for that woman, and so that she could spread, oh, he's an alcoholic, womanizer, stuff like that. So this has been a 25-minute first impressions of Batman vs Superman. I could go on for like this for hours and hours and hours talking about this movie, and I probably will once I'm up and recording for this review. So I hope to see you there. I'm terrified of editing it because it's going to be like 3 hours of footage, and I'm going to have to sit there and edit it. So thank you for watching this video. I must return to the shadows of the internet. That's like I said in the last video. That's a terrible segue. How am I supposed to get from thank you for watching this? I must return to the shadows of the internet. But this has been a review. But now I must return to the shadows of the internet. But on the Flash, well, there's already a but right there. So this has been Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice review. And now I must return to the shadows of the internet. But on the flash of the camera, I will return to the light. Ninja out!